We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Cheetos.
Good evening, everybody. After a couple-week hiatus, we are back and we are live tonight. Good evening, Drew. Good evening, Doc. Jerk and a Merc. Anthony, Justin, everybody in the comments section. Welcome.
That juke by Chuck Foreman in our intro is just insane, man.
Mm-hmm. Put refrigerated air in the tires of my Merc. That makes them cool. Nice. Yeah, so anyway, there's not a whole lot of news going on. Of course, we're in this dead point here. Training camp does start in a couple of weeks. I think the rookies report on July 23rd.
Coming up fast, bro.
Yep. So with that coming up, we figured tonight we would start with going through and doing an early roster prediction on who makes the team, who does not, and some surprises, some dark horses, and things like that. But before we get started on that, Doc Proto posted a good question in the comments here. We'll start that. So we'll start with this one. Why haven't we seen any contract progress towards Jefferson, Hawkinson, and Hunter?
I think it's because they're still on a contract. I think that's how the management's playing it. You know, I mean, no offense to the players, and I think they have good communication, I believe, you know, between the front office and, you know, down. And I think the players are on the same mind wavelength that Questy and KOC are on, and they all know what's going on. I don't think it's anything to really put a lot of investment into. Honestly, I think it's going to get done. All three of those guys will get re-signed. I've heard some rumors on Darisaw and a big contract extension coming, but Hunter, honestly, on that list is the only one that I would be concerned about as far as possibly not being here this coming season.
Well, and the thing with Hunter is they offered him more money for this season, but as far as, which is weird because normally you're asking players to take a pay cut for a season, but doing that kind of leads me to believe that they're a little iffy on signing him to any kind of a long-term deal. Now, if, you know, as Anthony just posted, we need Hunter. If we dump Hunter, you know, prior to the season here, there goes the only established edge rusher that we have.
And that, you know, we're going to be discussing that here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, when we get into that side of things. Now, I know I'm worried that Hunter's not going to be here. I think his team is going to stand firm, I think.
Do you think he holds out?
God, I don't know.
Or do you think we just get, you know, we get what we can for him?
I don't want to give him away.
Exactly. I don't want to give him away either. I would rather just have him hold out unless we get what we want, honestly, for this player.
Yeah, and I know I talked about it on Rhino's Rants a few weeks ago. Any kind of trade compensation for Danielle Hunter, if somebody's calling me, better have a first-round pick and at least a later pick mixed in there. Otherwise, I'm not even listening.
First and a mid-rounder would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Or a first,
which is fair compensation for a guy who's probably still top 10 edge
I
rushers in the
agree.
league.
He hasn't even hit 30 yet. He plays defensive end. He's got lots of years ahead of him.
No, he just
At
hit
least
20.
5 good years.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, but he hit 29 earlier in the week or soon in here anyway.
Yeah, well, them 3 or 4. He's still got 3 good years in the tank at least, I believe. And then it's Daniil Hunter. He's a fucking freak. You know what I mean? So,
I would think so. I just hope that, and kind of this rolling over to the other two, Hawkinson, I think, is probably the more critical one because he's in his 5th-year option now. So if we let him get to the end of the season without signing him, there's a good chance he walks and goes someplace else.
I think we have more leverage off season though too. When the league year flips over and our salary cap goes up, a lot of these guys that people are afraid of losing, we have some leverage to work with this next off season. Really.
Now, I mean, right now we've got like the 5th most cap space in the league available for this year. So, if we want to get,
I mean, somebody's going to get extended sooner than later. One of these 3 guys.
I would think at least one, if not 2 of these guys get extensions before training camp starts in a couple of weeks.
That's with Hunter being the odd man out, obviously.
Yeah, and Jefferson, I know they've said they're no big hurry because he's still got 1 more year plus his 5th-year option. But
I like that point David just made there.
Jefferson's only going to get more expensive. That's the problem.
Pop that up.
What's that?
David's with Doc's question.
Oh, yeah. Doc's question. Think they will announce. I think you're right on that, David. I think at least, TJ Hawkinson, I think he's going to get done here in the next week or two. Probably when they open up camp, they'll announce it, like you said. Beyond that, I mean, they may decide to wait on Jefferson. There isn't any real rush other than the fact, like I said, he's not going to get any cheaper.
Yeah, every day that goes by is the more expensive he gets.
Yep. Justin on record saying Hunter doesn't play for us again. Hope he's wrong. Yeah, I think I'm starting to kind of fall into that line of thinking a little bit too, Justin. I don't like that idea, but it's with what I've been hearing.
Aspect side of the game, it's just it's what it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Hunter, like some have said tonight, I think maybe he's looking for a change of scenery too. I don't know, I mean, who can blame the guy when they're trying to make this dude play outside linebacker when he's in the dirt, off the edge pass rusher? Well,
which he still would have been in a 3-4 had we not had Donishell making him drop into coverage half the freaking time last year.
Oh man, yeah, I know. It's just.
Doc, do you feel TJ is the most important? I think it's importance, maybe not the right word. Most urgent, I think, is probably a better.
There you go.
A better term for it because of the fact he's going into his final year of the contract. But
TJ coming to Minnesota does not get talked about enough. I think that is probably the best thing that Quessy has done as a GM so far is bring in Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm. Good evening, Skull Mafia. Ryan, yes, I know you had to do that. Thomas, welcome.
Yeah, we mentioned the Darisaw contract.
Yeah, whether we have Hunter or not will determine how far we go. You might be onto something there, Ryan. I'm not.
We have a lot of unknowns, behind Hunter. One of these, they're all hungry. All these guys behind Hunter on the depth chart are hungry, man. So, yeah. I mean, will they, get Hunter-like stats? I can't say, but they're going to work hard.
Yeah, well, and, we'll like you said, we'll get to the edge rushers here in a little bit when we start talking about the roster, but.
One more question from the group, if there is any. Anybody got any? One more question before we start hitting the roster?
Without Hunter, who is rushing the passer consistently? That is the $1 million question right there, Ryan.
I was going to say Patrick Jones for sure, Tom. Absolutely. He is he's probably hungrier than anybody in that room right now. And he's looked good in his snaps that he's been given.
Yeah. And Marcus Davenport's a huge question mark. I mean, he's going to start right now. He starts opposite of Hunter if Hunter's here.
None of us have had a really good look at Davenport, honestly. So we won't really know what we have in him until training camp gets rolling and we see him week 1.
Right. Hawk will lead all tight ends and yards and touchdowns. Very possible.
That would be great. That would be great. What a way to look Questy. Look extremely smart.
Mm-hmm. Good evening, Skull for Life. Skull Mafia. Have a question. Y'all going to Skull Fest? Okay, I'm going to sound dumb. What the hell is Skull Fest?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm not even sure.
Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, guys.
Yes. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Remember us developing an edge pretty consistently, Griffin, Robinson, etc. We did. We did, Doc. Justin wants to know if Drew's going to be plastered by the end of the episode. But anyway, I think we'll love to see Patrick Jones end up becoming a surprise star in the D. He very well could. I like me some Patrick Jones. I have ever since he's been a rookie.
Speaking of rookies, we got those other rookies too, which we'll talk about coming up.
Yep. So with that, nice segue over here. We're going to roll into the way too early 53-man roster predictions. Kind of go through the guys here, and we'll see position by position. Kind of throw out our opinions on who we think is a lock to make it in. We kind of did this last year. We'll kind of go player by player, and we'll just say, lock, bubble. Or gone guy, whatever. Night before the home opener, Rap, Dave, Yogi, Purple and Gold, we all going to be there. I know Dave had mentioned something to me about that Skull Mafia. I can't confirm on that yet, depending upon what the stuff brings here between now and then. So it'd be cool to go down there for that.
Hell yeah.
We're put us down as a maybe. Then we'll kind of go from there. Doing a live show at a bar. That sounds like a hell of a good time.
That would be freaking sweet.
Skull Mafia is coming from New York. There's dedication right there. So anyway, let's get started on this 53-man roster prediction. We shall start off with the quarterbacks. First one, I'm guessing nobody. Yeah. I want to say the best for last.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think there's going to be any discussion here. Of course, QB1, Kirk Cousins. Unless you think he's going someplace.
No. I have heard, though, about Nick Mullins possibly getting shopped around for some draft picks.
I don't know.
That was just somebody, in my house talking to me in the air. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen something like that.
You do realize that stuff isn't legal in Minnesota until August 1st, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But speaking of Nick Mullins, Nick, as of right now, quarterback 2. Myself personally, I don't see him not being on this roster this year.
Unless Jaron Hall just balls out in preseason and training camp, Other than that, Mullins is a proven decent backup. Yeah,
Mullins is one of the more quality backups in the league, in my opinion. I mean,
yeah,
we know he can
your backup quarterback, right?
Yeah, and we know Mullins can go out and win games for you. Which is more than we could say from a few years when we had Manwich there for. Yeah. But anyway, since you brought him up again, Jaron Hall, QB3 as it sits right now.
I think he's going to be that guy that is that scratch rule or whatever, where you can carry 3 quarterbacks into a game and they doesn't count against the roster. I think and it fits the bill perfectly for Hall.
Yeah, no, I'm not quite sure how that works. If somebody in the comment section knows for sure, I think he still counts as a roster spot, but he doesn't count against the 46 or whatever active on Sundays.
It sounds like there's a loophole there then or something.
Yeah,
somewhere.
so I think he does count on the final 53.
You ain't sneaking him through the waivers, so I mean I'm keeping him, man.
Yeah,
it comes down to it.
I mean, we'll see how
we haul through waivers.
We'll see how he plays here in preseason, but yeah,
right.
I don't think they're going to try to sneak him down to the practice squad. Personally, Hall has to be at least QB3. Don't think he would get through waivers. Yep, exactly. I don't think he would either, especially if he shows out and shows some promise in the preseason games, because I think he's going to get a ton of playing time. I'm honestly would be surprised if we saw Kirk in the preseason more than a handful of series.
A series, yeah. Let Mullins and Hall handle most of the duties.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of figuring here we're going to hold on to all three quarterbacks on the active roster.
Yeah.
Okay, since we're on the quarterback here, David brought up a thing. We'll hit this quick. Opinion Kirk's last season as a Vikings going to play the market after this season. Niners and Rams are going to have a bidding war over him. Kirk's whole career has been about money. For as much as it's always been said about the 49ers and, Kyle Shanahan's love affair with Kirk Cousins, and now this all hinges on whether or not Brock Purdy turns out to be the quarterback that he was last year. I'm not convinced that he is. But if he comes back from his injury and plays like he did last year, honestly, I don't know that the 49ers would be in on Kirk Cousins.
That also gives, teams the whole offseason and everything to look at film on Purdy as well.
Yeah, and that's why I think Purdy's going to have a sophomore slump and he's going to struggle a little bit.
They're going to boom or bust for those Niners in that quarterback room, in my opinion. All three guys are really, truly unproven guys. And like I said, with Purdy now there's tape on him. Yeah, it could be different this year.
Yeah, with joint practices, I doubt any of the ones play any preseason games. I'm not going to say that they're not going to play at all. I think there's some that probably don't. Justin Jefferson most likely does not. Darisaw most likely does not. Harrison Smith, some of those guys, I'm guess don't. Kirk and McVay have a history too. Yep. So I think Stafford has a bunch of the.
That's true. Skull Mafia.
Yeah.
Up to this point, anyways. But yeah, I thank God we don't have him on our roster.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with Sam Darnold, but
no.
I think this is a very good point, Drew, and it's something that we'll tackle on a later show because I don't want to get down that rabbit hole tonight.
I think this season's got to play out before we even touch that, honestly. But I mean, that's the thought in the back of everybody's mind at this point in time, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, moving on to the running backs. We currently have 4 running backs and 2 fullbacks on the roster. Of course, Alexander Madison is your RB1. No chance he's going anywhere.
No,
I don't think.
No.
Then the other guys, you've got Ty Chandler, Dwayne McBride, and Kene Nwangwu.
I believe Dwayne McBride. They may try to sneak through onto the practice squad through the waivers. He's gonna have to have a preseason where the coaches are like, we can't chance it. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, McBride is probably on the bubble as far as making the 53.
Yeah,
but
I think
he try to sneak him onto the practice squad. I guarantee that.
I think you're probably right there, especially if they decide to keep a fullback, because we have, of course, CJ Ham and Zach Ojili, both of them Minnesota kids.
You know what? Fullbacks are becoming. They're making a comeback, bro, in the league. They are.
Well, and the thing with CJ Ham is they love Ham for his leadership and for his special team stuff too. So I think that gives Ham the inside track to kind of
quietly versatile too at his position at fullback.
Yeah, and plus they did sign him to an extension, not too long ago.
At this point, Ryan, that it not that Ryan in the comments that is true. That is true at this point. With that speed. You got to find out a way to get this guy the ball in space.
No, they did say during minicamp, Wongwu was getting the lion's share of the RB2 carries.
Right.
So I think they're going to give him and Chandler, I think, are going to have equal opportunity to fight it out for that RB2 position. You're still going to go running back by committee, I think.
Absolutely. It will be running back by committee, and I guarantee it will be running back by committee of 3, most likely.
Yeah. Well, especially if we have to keep a third quarterback on the roster, which we're likely going to have to do like we talked about.
That's very true, Drew. I agree with that as well. But at the same time, even Kevin O'Connell referred to McBride as the rookie in press conferences up to this point.
Right.
Not saying that's a knock on McBride. I've seen what McBride can do, and if he can do what he did in college at the next level, he's going to be a hell of a player.
The thing that scares me with McBride the most is his
dropsies.
His fumbleitis. Not going to go there.
No, we won't. That's all right. Forgot we're live. Can we go back? Can we cut that? Can we go back?
Yeah, sure. One gets a hot hand, the committee will change. Yeah, that's very true, Doc. I get, Madison's going to start it out, and then we'll kind of see what happens with the rest of them. But
I think there's going to be series for certain backs and plays for certain backs as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, moving on to probably the deepest position on this team, wide receiver. McBride has to have a very impressive to be RB3. I think you're right, Skull for life. So that's why, I think if there has to be a tough cut made to keep the third quarterback, I think it might be McBride, but we'll see. Wide receivers, of course, the top 3, Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison. I don't think any surprise there
I don't know. I'm not ready to pencil in Addison at number 3, to be honest with you. I mean, is that the hope? Yeah. But I'm not ready to pencil him at number 3.
I think the goal is for him to start as wide receiver 3, and then if he can, he'll if he can surpass Osborne, great. If not, excuse me.
No knock on Addison, but that's just how deep our receiver room is right now, and that's a good problem to have. It doesn't help that Addison hasn't had many off-season, practices in his pocket up to this point.
But training camp's going to let it go. Going to go a long way with this. And if Addison shows out like everybody expects that he will, I don't see Kevin O'Connell pulling the Mike Zimmer and making the rookie sit for 4 games before starting.
No. I don't see that either. That was just Zim being Zim.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Skull for life. Exactly.
Yep.
Skull Mafia, true.
So with that, of course, we have a ton of other guys on the roster. First of which, as Skull Mafia mentioned here, Jalen Naylor, who by all accounts really was showing out in OTAs and minicamp.
I was singing his praises since the end of last season, man, for sure. Mm-hmm. We both have been.
Yeah. Thomas, do you think wide receiver 5 knows how to do returns? I think so. No, just going to get to that point right now. Of course, Jalen Reagor right now is probably wide receiver 5.
here, Rager.
You know, I honestly don't think Jalen Rager makes the roster, to be honest with you.
Out.
Which leads us to the next guy, that Powell kid we got from we picked up from the Rams. He's got return ability, and I think that's probably why they brought Brandon Powell in, was because KOC has some familiarity with him from his time in Los Angeles, and with that kick return ability or his punt return ability, I believe that Jalen Rager becomes expendable, especially for the fact that Jalen Rager screws up more offensive plays than he makes.
Drew, you know, with the Edison beating out Osborne, I mean, the talent is there to do it. What concerns me is the size of his body. You know, he's already proven that he can't stay, you know, healthy during the offseason, and that is, to me, is a concern. The talent absolutely is there to be a great compliment to Jefferson, but Osborne is, you know, we got to see what happens there with him. Is he going to take that next step to be the number 2 guy, or is he going to let Addison creep up in him and overtake that number 2 position?
Honestly, I think Addison does overtake it. Probably not. He's probably not going to start off the season at wide receiver 2, but there's a pretty good chance
The plan is to have him at wide receiver 2 by week 4, but he will see playing time, plenty of it, before then.
Absolutely.
He will have his opportunities for sure.
Yep.
And that's not a knock on anybody's opinion. This wide receiver group is deep, and that's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm. Then there's one other guy here that I personally
Blake Pro.
We'll get to him in a second.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
but
okay. Yeah, he's on the list here.
Oh,
but guy I like out of Kansas State, kind of a Swiss Army knife. Guy does all kinds of stuff. I think he's one of these surprise dark horses that might make a push for the 53. Malik Knowles. He's kind of a Deebo Samuel light type kind of guy. Of a Percy Harvin kind of pick whatever your comparison you want. But the kid did a lot of different things at Kansas State, and I think if he doesn't make the 53, he's going to be on the practice squad.
Yeah.
But I think he's a dark horse to make the 53. After him, then we've got, of course, a ton of other guys. The aforementioned Blake Prohl, Tristan Jackson, who was kind of the darling from last year. Cephas
Jackson's becoming like the dude that's been on the practice squad for like the last decade. I know he hasn't, but that's just what it feels like.
Yeah. Then we also have Cephas Johnson, Thayer Thomas, Lucky Jackson, and Garrett Mogg.
Yeah, I believe from the guy that we had just talked about, everybody on from that point is all, practice squad or releasable.
Camp fodder type stuff.
Especially with the growth that we need at other positions, with wide receiver being so deep. I mean, on this defensive side, we're going to need some open spots for some guys that, have something to prove more so than what we do on in their playmaking spots.
Yep.
And what we do.
Hey, good evening, Dave. I think we probably only keep 5 wide receivers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially, getting to the next group and everything else here. So there's a lot of guys that we talked about aren't going to make it. That wide receiver 5, I think, comes down to either Brandon Powell or Malik Knowles, myself personally.
And a lot of these guys that don't make the 53 are going to be just fine.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Honestly, they're going to find homes somewhere else. And good for them.
Yep. All right, so move over now to the tight ends. Of course, TJ Hawkinson and the recently signed Josh Oliver, locks to make the roster.
Also heard that Oliver's hands, they've been raving about Oliver's hands.
Well, he was a good pass catcher in college. They just never used him as a pass catcher with
He was on the
Baltimore
Ravens,
because
he was on the Ravens.
Right. So I mean, you have a combination of
They want him blocking. They want him blocking, and guess what? He took that and ran with it, bro.
Yep. Well, because Lamar Jackson runs 80% of the time, and then you had.
Now we get to open the box completely to see what this guy actually has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I think
by all reports, it's gleaming reviews.
Yeah, I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised with Oliver's pass catching when we get him out here.
This could be the best tight end group that we've had since the 90s.
Yeah. So that leaves our old buddy Johnny Muntcake, Nick Muse, and Ben Sims as the other 3 tight ends on the roster.
Muse, get out of here. Sims, get out of here. And guess what, Johnny Munt? You get the 3rd spot at tight end, brother.
If we keep 3 tight ends, Munt is tight end 3. I mean, there's really no question about that, I don't think.
21 personnel, bro.
Yeah. All right, on to the TJ Munt and Oliver roster. Yeah, I agree, Drew.
Boom.
Munt is
exactly. Yep.
Munt is going to bunt.
Munt is going to bunt. Yep.
All right, on to the offensive line. We'll start off with the tackles, of course. Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill, locks. The only question with O'Neill is, will he be ready for training camp? They've been saying all the way along that he will be.
Steve Jordan.
Yeah, I would agree with. Well,
Kyle Rudolph is overrated. Kill me. Pitchfork Nation.
Cool that Ellison stayed on as a coach. I think so too, Dave. That was kind of neat to see.
Absolutely cool. And it tells a lot about the organization too.
Yep. As far as our backups, we have Blake Brandel, Oli Udo, Vidarian Lowe, Sam Schluter, and Alan Ali.
I'd like to see, obviously locks at Darrisaw and O'Neill. I would like to see Brandel make the team. I'm about done with the old. You know what? Udo had a lot better season last year out at tackle. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was fine with Oli Udo when he stepped in for when O'Neill went down.
So I mean, I think we have 2 tackles. A 2 right tackles and 2 left tackles, and I mean, it's going to be a battle between Udo and Vidarian Lowe for that right tackle spot.
And I think Vidarian Lowe, hopefully takes a step up this year and can crack that 53. Sam Schluter.
It's Udo's job to lose, number 2 at right tackle.
Yep, Schluter. Good story there, Minnesota guy, but he's not making the roster. Alan Lee, same thing.
I mean, that's one of those things that he would have to really impress. Either of those guys would have to really impress coming out of preseason to make the roster.
Yep. Ryan, I agree 100% on that one. Moving into guard, we have, of course, Ezra Cleveland and Ed Ingram as the starters.
Needs to take that next step. And you know what? Going towards the end of last year, he was making markedly great improvement in his game. And he just needs to take that next step. We finally got Bradbury. We're getting there to take that next step. Now we just need Ingram to go into his sophomore year and just start mauling bitches.
Yeah. Backup guards right now, Chris Reed and Jackie Chen. Dave says he thinks he'll have Ali inside at a guard. Very possible. Some of these guys might kick in. If they look like they'll turn out into guards better. That may mix up the backup stuff. You've also got Austin Schlottman, who can play both positions, guard and center, but Jackie Chen does his own stunts.
Just for the name alone, I want him to make the roster, but that's not enough reason to take up a roster spot. Yeah, he is.
Cleveland playing for big contract. Yeah, he is, and I've heard rumors that he still thinks he can be a tackle in this league, so he might want more money than. I would still like to see us bring Dalton Reisner in before camp starts.
I would be okay with that as well.
Have those 3 guys fight it out, and the best 2 of those 3 start.
Yeah, right. Iron sharpens iron. Steel sharpens steel. Whatever the fucking saying is.
Yeah.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Chris Reed, I think, makes the roster just for the simple fact that
I think he might be on the bubble, honestly.
well, he can play both. I mean, play both guard and center, so I think that position
I think
versatility
Slotman
helps him.
takes that number 2 spot.
Yeah, he will.
Segue into where we're going now.
Yep. And you had brought up Garrett Bradbury a minute ago. I have 2 concerns with Bradbury yet. One, is that back going to be a lingering issue?
Those are always serious, especially when it comes to your O-linemen and those lower back injuries. We all know it, us old men. It's hard to do things when your back ain't working with you.
Right. Then the other question I have with Bradbury is, assuming his back is fine, do we see the Garrett Bradbury that we saw last year, or does he go back to being Garrett Bradbury again?
Fucking down that shit, Drew.
Mudslide 15. 1, 2, 3, floor.
Down the hatch, buddy. No, but yeah, Bradbury O'Connell got the most out of him, like what we were hoping he would do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it got to the point where we went from, God, I hope somebody plays that's not named Bradbury, to, God, I hope Bradbury plays.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, Bradbury, well-deserved for last year's play. Now, let's just keep it up. Let's take it up another notch. Let's become an all-pro center. And then we'll get you that deal, too.
Right. Now, okay, Schlotman, like we mentioned, he's center number 2. We also have Josh Sokol on the roster.
Top of the evening.
Toonces is here. Help has arrived. Sokol, of course, he was on the practice squad last year. Little bit of a concern that they didn't bring him up when Bradbury went down. So,
yeah.
I mean, we'll see if he makes a step up from last year.
This year, year 2 practice squad, unless he, training camp or preseason tells us otherwise.
Right. Okay, so with that, we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball. Now, here's where things start to get a little more interesting, I think.
Exactly, I agree. I absolutely
agree. The offense, there aren't going to be a ton of surprises there, I don't think, other than the bottom of the roster type guys.
That offense has no That offense has no excuse to not be a top 5 unit this year, and they have the potential to be the best unit in the NFL, in my opinion, before we, touch base on defense.
I mean, the tools are there, we'll put it that way, I guess.
Yeah, let the dogs loose, O'Connell, and let this team get to work. Let's start humming. I mean, outscore every opponent every fucking week. Yeah. You go for the touchdown every drive. Go for it on 4th down all the time. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Right. Anyway, onto the defensive line.
We won't need a punter. You can get rid of the punter, but I like Ryan Wright.
I like our punter. So starting off at the defensive ends, we have Dean Lowry and Harrison Phillips, who are, at least for right now, penciled in as the starters.
Right. And that could change, man, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the other guys, we have James Lynch, Jonathan Bullard, Ross Blacklock, Asezi Adamayo, Junior Aho, and TJ Smith.
Etsy Adamayo, another guy that came on strong towards the end of last year, where I was having some eye-popping plays when he was on the field.
Yeah, I think Adamayo probably sticks on the roster this year.
He does. Adamayo is a lock for me. Write that down.
The two of the top guys we had last year, Jonathan Bullard and Ross Blacklock. I didn't even know Blacklock was on the roster half of the season because he didn't do anything.
Guy. They're both the same guy.
Yeah, and it's just a guy.
Exactly. They're a guy that both have last names that start with B, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I honestly could care less. I hope somebody comes in or they really rip it up. Either they tear it up or somebody comes and takes their fucking job.
Mm-hmm.
Uncensored, guys.
Yeah. Junior Aho, I don't know anything about him, but I'm pretty sure he's going to have a hole on the practice squad, maybe, or just cut all together. That was a bad pun. I'm sorry, but TJ Smith, he's a guy who could make the team, but again, just a guy as far as I'm concerned. In it, nose tackle, Kiris Tonga has taken over as the starter at the nose, which I think is a good play.
He is getting talked up, and I hope he becomes something special, man. And guess what? We stole him from a division rival.
Yep.
Even better, make it even more sweet. And this dude was on and was not talked about enough last year. As far as his run defense goes, he is top 8, I think, in the league as far as play last year goes.
Well, yeah, he was ranked up there pretty highly, looking at like Pro Football Focus and things like that. And he was named, I forget which outlet it was. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. That he was one of the guys that was like their secret superstars or whatever, guys that were going to take that next leap this year. And Tonga was picked.
And he's a nasty player and a mean player, and
which is what you need. We've been begging for that big nasty in the middle.
The line have needed that type of player, and it's been a while. Tonga, he just needs to work on his pass rush ability a little bit. I think it's a little bit underrated too, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he needs to take his pass rush to the next level to be, all pro candidate, in my opinion.
Yeah. Then the next guy, of course, is our rookie, Jacalen Roy. By all accounts, he looked very impressive.
Player.
Yep. And he can play both inside and outside. So, I think there's a good chance on passing situations he comes in and rotates in with Tonga.
As much as Flores likes to run stunts and twists, this could be really nasty for some teams to play against.
Yeah.
I'm thinking come week 5, week 6, this defense needs to start humming. I mean, at the first 3 weeks, we might start off a little slow, but once week 5, and Flores' defenses are known to start out slow, but once you get to mid-season, it's when the magic starts happening.
Yep. The other two guys they have.
James Lynch is out.
I like me some James Lynch, but I think he's kind of peaked, I think.
He did, exactly. That's a good way to put it. He peaked, and I wasn't too impressed with him last year, honestly, when he was given those opportunities to take his play. Next level, like we mentioned tonight, and he didn't really do that.
No. So we have Sheldon Day. To me, he's a guy. Good day. The kid I'm interested to see how it plays was Calvin Avery, that rookie out of Illinois. He's a big dude. He's a bowling ball. He's like 6 foot, 345 pounds or something like that. So I think
player for sure.
Yeah, I think he's another dark horse to possibly make the 53. I mean I hope he goes and if he goes and takes one of Bullard or Blacklock's job or whatever.
At the very least, yeah, absolutely.
I'm fine with that. Then you bump Roy outside and Avery becomes your backup at the nose. That's fine with me. Now here's the one that we were talking about earlier in the night. Don't like Sheldon Day. That's my cousin. Are you serious on that, Justin, or is that just the play on the last name? Anyway, on to the edge rushers.
I'm just kidding. He's not.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but he
was a great character on Garfield and Friends for sure.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Of course, as it sits right now, Daniil Hunter and Marcus Davenport are in as the starters. The whole Daniil Hunter thing still completely up in the air.
There's still depth there, though, that I like, and potential at those end positions.
Sean Frabel, good evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Skull.
Yeah, so I mean, if Hunter's not here, then you move on. Patrick Jones, I think, probably would be next in line to take over for Hunter. If
Yep.
Beyond him, of course, we still have DJ Wanham, the villain Luigi Vallon, Andre Carter the second.
Now
I think
it's interesting.
Yep. I think Carter. I think
really invested in this guy. To be honest,
Carter's going to make the 53. I'm saying that right now.
Yeah,
and I think he's going to get significant playing time.
Have to bomb to not make the 53 roster. Honestly, I think this is one of their guys they're really banking on as far as.
Well, and this is the kid that we saw as high. I saw a few mock drafts by reputable draft people.
The guy's a specimen, bro. For real.
Yeah, they were having him in the late first round to early second round in a bunch of mock drafts early on.
They just knock him because of his height. They don't think he's got that bend. And you know what? This dude's going to come out and he's going to prove you all wrong. I believe.
After he didn't get drafted, when we picked him up, his post on his Instagram feed said it all. He said, "Y'all done fucked up. Here I come," kind of thing, So
now that was the next guy we're about to talk about.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, wrong guy with a chip on his shoulder.
As exciting as this guy we're talking about right now.
Right.
I'm almost more excited about the next dude.
Yeah. Well, he's in the middle linebacker group, not on this one, but
good.
Curtis Weaver and Benton Whitley are the other two edge rushers. They're again
I like JSP too. I do.
Yeah. Wanham is one of those guys though that he's too inconsistent. I think he's obviously started at
playmaker, that's for sure, but it's far in between. But I think that might have a lot to do with how many snaps he gets per game as well. Rhino.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago when Hunter was out, he did get 8 sacks, but 5 of those were against the Bears. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, then on to the inside linebackers. We'll get to the guy I was actually talking about here in just a minute.
Andre Carter. Andre Carter's still a beast, though.
Yeah. Of course, the starters right now, Jordan Hicks is the starter at 1.
Position worries me on defense.
Troy Reeder, the guy that again we brought in from the Rams, he was running with the ones in OTAs and minicamp, but I fully expect Brian Asamoah to be the starter week 1 against Tampa Bay.
Outside of Asamoah, I would love to see Pace come in, tear it up, and I think Pace and Asamoah are the future at middle linebackers or interior linebackers for us.
I think you're right.
Fucking tandem. They're animals, bro.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Pace. He's got pass rush ability. He's in the way that Flores likes to blitz. I can see them using Pace quite a bit in that aspect.
In my opinion, they say his pass coverage is one of his weaknesses, but I believe his pass coverage is underrated.
I mean, it'll be interesting once he gets in the pros here to see how he does. I think Pace makes the roster, no questions about that either.
Pace and Carter are 2 UDFAs that are almost, in my opinion, are locks to make the roster.
Yeah. So as far as our inside linebackers go, I think if we're keeping 4, it's going to be Asamoah, Hicks, Reeder, and Carter. Not Carter. Ivan Pace. Sorry.
Ivan Carter.
Agent Carter? I don't know.
Let's write a movie about him.
Yeah. Other than that, we have Troy Dye, Abraham Beauplan, and Wilson Huber.
I'm with Dye. Get Dye out of here. I've said this at the beginning of last year. I am not a Dye guy. Get Dye out of here. You've had your chance. Leave. Go. Today. Yeah.
The only reason he stuck around last year because he is decent on special teams, but that's some of these young guys can take that spot.
Ivan Pace, fucking Andre Carter, special teams right there. Plug them in unless they're going to be starting.
Yep. And I don't think either Pace and Carter aren't going to start right off the get-go, so they're going to make their hay as a rotational players and special teams.
Mid-season, that defense will be humming. Shit will be figured out.
Okay, moving on to the safety position, medium pace. Now, I think it's the thick and chunky stuff that's not made in New York City.
The character that Pace brings to this to this squad, man.
I do too. He's got that fire and that attitude. I think are going to be
war when he's
now as long as he can it's controlled aggression and not, pin your ears back, close your eyes, and just run 1,000 miles an hour,
bro. And you know what they say about those short guys?
They're not very tall.
The most aggressive little sons of bitches you'll ever see. Yeah. Any of you short guys out there that have bad tempers? I bet there are.
Anyway, moving on to the safety position. Now we've got 6 guys currently on the roster here. I think 5 of them make it. Myself. We got, of course, right now Harrison Smith, of course, no question starter.
I think Bynum's a couple guy, in my opinion, honestly.
Cam Bynum, he was the starter last year, but we've got, of course, Lewis Seen coming back from that really bad leg injury. Still working with the twos in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, but I'm not too concerned with that. They're being a little.
I think Metellus really took a step up last year. I mean, he could easily be the number 2 guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and Metellus has looked really good so far in off-season activities, and I mean,
that seed towards the end of last season, that team believes in him. At that.
Yeah,
position.
and I was just going to bring that up. They made him a captain at the end of the year. For a backup special teams guy getting the captaincy on his jersey.
A dude that put in the work and got to where he is by doing it all on his own.
Yeah, and by all accounts, the coaching staff loves him. Metellus makes the roster.
Player's player, man.
Yeah.
And then you got, like I said, I think Bynum, honestly, I think he's on the bubble. He might be Vamonos.
Maybe.
And then you got guys like Ward that you don't want to cut because
they're not going to cut. I think Ward is going to play a ton. 3 safety set type stuff, and
sets, and we've been seeing them in the off season in our mini camps, and
he can play cornerback too. So I think he fits into that slot nickel cornerback spot. The other guy is Theo Jackson. They're again just a guy. So I think we keep.
I think it's gonna come down to training camp. I think it's going to be the battle. It's going to be a battle between those 2 guys for that spot, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of their plan when they drafted him, was that he can play that hybrid role.
The same type of player, Ward and Bynum. They came out of college with both basically the same write-up.
Yep. Then speaking of the cornerbacks, of course, right now, Byron Murphy, unquestioned starter. The other 2 guys penciled in at starter is Caleb Evans and Andrew Booth Jr.
Booth Jr. was more of a disappointment to me than Evans was, a bright spot,
Yeah.
Word is Evans has really worked on his tackling and, his technique to stay healthy and unconcussed.
And he said straight out, he said that was his problem. Why he got hurt was because he wasn't running his head and his shoulder in the right way when he was tackling. So he was
everybody, dude. And I mean, that cornerback room, it's got a chip on its shoulder right now, and and the league knows it. And that's a team that's a group that needs to really step it up this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Booth, jury's still out on him. I don't know that he can stay healthy. The kid's never been healthy since high school.
The talent is there, but can the guy stay on the field? Does he? And I question his passion for the game at times as well. But who am I? Who am I to question that? Being Joe Schmo, Baloney, fucking Chinese buffet reviewer, podcaster. Right. But that's what the body language tells me.
Yeah. So I mean,
he's got the jaw and flaps his gums, but let's see him stay on the field and make some plays.
Yeah, I mean, he could end up being another Cam Dantzler type that just doesn't have the gusto when he's there. I don't know.
He's got the physique that you want at that position. It's just stay healthy, bro.
Yeah. This next guy, I think he's probably the biggest threat to Booth as a starting cornerback. That's Mekhi Blackman.
Yeah.
The film I didn't do a lot of research on Blackman ahead of the draft.
Probably one of the smartest corners in the draft this year.
Yep. I think he's going to be a starter sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, the dude knows the whole route tree. So he has great anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of those corners that's coming out this year where a lot of people are going to look and be like, wow.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Right. So I think those four make the roster. Now we got a bunch of other guys here. We got Joejuan Williams, the guy that we picked up from Joejuan. He was with the Patriots. I think he probably stands a decent chance of making it.
Special teams, possibility right there too, for sure.
Kalon Barnes is the next one. I know they're very intrigued by his speed. The kid is a blazing fast rocket. See what his coverage skills and how he looks, I guess. The next guy, CJ Colden Jr. To be honest with you, I have no idea what the hell a CJ Colden Jr. is.
Yep.
He's just a guy. Tay Gowan. What's that?
Joanna Man.
Yeah.
Joanna Man.
Joanna Williams. Tay Gowan, who played a little bit last year, probably practice squad material, I think. I don't know that he makes the 53. John Reed, another just a guy.
I really don't think so on Thomas's comment there.
Thomas, yeah, I don't think so either. The punt returner is going to come down. I think it's going to be Brandon Powell probably that ends up being the punt returner. Rager's gone, like we talked about earlier. But anyway, I don't think they're going to put any of the corners out there as return guys. Maybe some of these lower roster guys have that capability. I don't know. The other two we have on the roster, Najee Thompson and Jalen Williams.
Yeah, just bodies that are looking to make the team.
Yeah, I mean Jalen Williams has NFL experience, so I mean he's a maybe, but I don't see him making it. David Naylor.
That is dark horse for the return duties.
They tried him in there a little bit. It's possible. I think they look more
with his history of injuries. I don't think he's a guy you really want to put back there. Punt return abilities. I think you want to focus more on his receiving abilities.
I think I would agree with that. So yeah, those other guys, Reed, Thompson, Jalen Williams, Colden. I think those guys are camp fodder. Tay Gowan is a maybe. Kalon Barnes is a maybe. Didn't even know her. There it is. Toon says, I've been waiting for that one ever since somebody started talking about Naylor. Then on to the special teams, our final group for the night. There's only one competition going on there. At punter, at punter, Ryan Wright is unquestioned. He's the starter. He's the punter.
Yeah, and he's awesome. I want to
same thing.
I want a red jersey.
They should have let him have 66 though.
Yeah, I agree. And then they go and change the rule after.
Yeah. He still wouldn't be able to have 60 or 66 though.
Oh well, I still want a Ryan Wright jersey. So anybody out there want to buy me one, send it to my house. Let me know.
There you go. Appreciate that, Toons. I know you're always good for the backup. Then of course, long snapper Andrew DePaulo. No question there. He's
locked in at that position.
Well, yeah, they re-signed him to like one of the highest deals ever for a long snapper. So he's
right.
I play guitar like Eddie because he's dead.
That's some dark shit, man.
Yeah, that's a little too soon. The only quote unquote competition going on as far as special teams is the kickers. Of course, Greg Joseph's the incumbent, and then Jack Plodinsky.
Absolutely, Justin. Hit that like button.
Yes, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you have not done so already, would be greatly appreciated. I think Joseph makes it back as a kicker again.
It's his to lose, man.
Yeah, and by all accounts,
that extra point thing taking care of those hiccups. Other than that, he had a good season hitting field goals, man.
Yeah, and it sounds like Podesny during training camp or mini camp and stuff was kind of all over the place, erratic. One day he'd be perfect, then the next day it was all over the place. So I don't see him. He probably ends up being one of the first cuts, to be honest with you.
My laptop might die.
Oh. Well, we're about done here anyway. So
yeah. My blackout guys. I'll see you next week.
Since we're coming up on 7:00, been going for an hour here, and since Lance's laptop is about ready to die.
Oh, it's getting power now. We can go for another hour.
Okay, we're good now.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I see the little light on there. We're good. We're good.
All right. Well, anyway, that's the rest of the roster stuff. Anyway,
commenters, people watching the show, you guys want us to hit on anything else? Let us know quick here. We'll give you a minute or two. And
yeah.
Or you just want us to leave like Anthony's, like get the hell off of here. I'm done watching you guys.
Well, yeah, and your brother wants to go watch SmackDown, so
fucking SmackDown. Check out that Bloodline fucking story.
Thanks for allowing me to be a jerk and a merc anytime. But anyway, I want to thank all you guys. Joe Snow, welcome. Andrew Norwell Guard is becoming available from the Commanders. You'd have to trade for him, though, I think.
And you'd have to be, confident enough that he's gonna truly battle Cleveland for the job, or Ingram, whomever it might be.
I mean, they're going to release him. Well, then that's a different story. I mean, he might be worth a look.
Yeah, competition's always fine, man. You got to bring Reisner in though too. I mean, that's a big mystery to me as well.
Yeah. Sold him an Escalade today. Oh wow. If I was in the middle of getting cut from my job, I don't know that I'd be in buying an Escalade, but he's made himself a little bit of money. I'm sure he can afford it, but I'm not posting that one, Ryan. So don't get your hopes up. But anyway,
he does though. He does.
Yeah. Check him out, 10-year vet out of Ohio State. Yeah, I've watched him play, Joe, for off and on for, but I haven't followed his career overly close. But he's a good player. I like him. Now, if being a 10-year vet, that doesn't really fit into the mold of the guys that Quasey's been bringing in. He's more than the 25, 26-year-old guys coming off their first contract. But I myself is like if he's still got something in the tank and can provide even some good backup depth or something like that, by all means, bring him in training camp. Let's try him out. Let's see what we can do.
Make the team better, yes.
Yep. And that's the same thing with any position. And the guys we're talking about right now, there are probably players. I mean, we'll just about guarantee it. Players that'll be on the 53-man roster that aren't on the team right now.
There's always that cut. Oh my God, you can't bleep that out. There's always that cut before the start of the regular season. That's also a big day as well, when a lot of these quality guys get released or cut from their teams, and you just kind of got to wave through it and see who's available.
Right. Something in the tank. Yeah. I was wondering if you were going to catch that, Ryan. That's why I said it, but.
All right, Rhino.
Yeah, on that note, I think it's about time to call her for the night. Thank you guys, everybody, for showing up, watching, commenting. Joe, Ryan, Toonses, Drew,
all you guys. Even the ones that didn't comment, subscribe.
Everybody, Skull for Life, Skull Mafia, Justin, Ant, everybody in the comments section, thank you for joining us. We love
Great
having
to be
these
back.
live shows and interacting. David, yes, you're here too, and that's too much information. We don't need to know about that. Dave, Stefano, thank you for joining, bud.
Wrestling.
One-time cut's going to be wild this season. Yeah, I think I agree. It's going to dump a ton of players on the market at once.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there.
Exactly.
So, but with that, like I said, if you've not done so, hit that subscribe button, hit the like, helps us out with the metrics a ton. Really appreciate you guys joining us. We're glad to be back after a couple-week hiatus. Should have a full slate next week. We'll have a Rhinos Rants on Monday. Brunswick's Best will be back on Wednesday. Then we'll have another studio show next Friday again. But with that, thank you again, everybody. And why don't you take us home, Lance?
Like Rhino said, thanks everybody for coming tonight. I had a good time. It's great to be back. Getting back into the swing of things. And you know what? Training camp's just around the corner. Even better. Next thing you know, it's going to be week 1. Tampa Bay. So with that being said, Millie, Aubrey, if you're out there watching, Dad loves you. Skull.
Have a good weekend, guys.